Thank you, morning guys. I love this stage because of the air conditioning. And I wonder whether this stage is always packed due to that reason. So we will having a very tight panel today because we have 5 speakers and each speaker will be allocated around 10 minutes times. So I would like to accelerate the panel. I would like to introduce Putu Yindy Kurniawan. He is leading the conversion effort to convert fuel-based motorcycle into electrical base in Bali. 2 of his motorcycles, electric one, are now currently on display up there, and you can try it. The conversion price is very affordable, 3 million rupiah for the holder of Indonesian ID. So next to Yindy is Dian Tri Irawaty, fondly called Didi. She is the program manager of the Rujak Center for Urban Studies in Jakarta, and she will talk about how sometimes the well-intentioned effort to reduce emission end up only transferring the pollution into another area. The third one is Cok Putra, member of the Ubud royal family, but also the chairman of Bina Wisata Foundation that is right now trying to relieve the city center in Ubud from cars and motorcycles. Oh. Cok, let's go and trying to be the regent of Gianyar in the next election. Next is Gungtik. He's the waste. He's responsible for the waste management program at the PPLH, Bali Center for Environmental Education, one of the oldest NGO in Bali that focus and determined to solve the island waste problem. And next, the 4 speakers will talk about cases by cases, best practice or worst example. Next is Satya Kumara, PhD, a lecturer at Udayana University, and one of his field of expertise is renewable energy. So Satya will speak about the bigger picture, about Bali as an island. Okay, silakan. The first speaker will be Didi from Jakarta, trying to teach us the Balinese about what we should do. Silakan Didi, 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Brijun. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dian, and you can call me Didi. And I don't think I'm here to educate Balinese to do things, because that's what actually Rujak has been trying to advocate, that not everything about Jakarta for Indonesia. That's why we believe Rujak. Rujak is like a gado-gado, so cities coming from different angles with its own characteristic. But regarding today's topic about the low emission zone, we know that based on the experience or lesson learned from cities across Europe that become the pioneers of this program, the government in Indonesia started with Jakarta, and today probably soon Bali will also try to implement these policies. I think we should think it through, considering a variety of factors. For example, like we know that the pioneers of this program started in Sweden, in Stockholm, and followed by London and other cities in Europe, Germany, cities, also Italy, and even in Asia, only the advanced countries like South Korea, Japan, Beijing, and Hong Kong that has been followed the step. But I think we all also need to consider the characteristic of the use of transportations or private vehicles in Southeast Asian countries, particularly the rise of the use of motorcycles as mode of transportations. Of course, many cities in Indonesia nowadays trying to keep up with or like trying to provide better public infrastructures. Like in Jakarta, it is currently very well connected. I live in suburb, and it only took me like an hour and a half or 2 hours to commute one way to office in Jakarta, but it's still better in terms of the availability of public transport. I've been living in LA for 8 years, and I think it's better Jakarta than LA. But considering if we want to implement the policies, like in Jakarta, we currently have the policies implemented in the Old Town or Kota Jakarta Kota. It's kind of like historical area in Jakarta. It was started in 2021, February 8th, and has been kind of like influencing the surrounding environment. I mean, the government of Jakarta, of course, have good intentions to curb the emissions, targeting vehicles, or like limiting the area, assign a particular area like Old Town or Kota Tua as low emission zone area, and restrict all the vehicles to transport through this site. But the problem that exists is because of the use of the motorcycles and how people do not have options. So what happens is the drivers will try to find ways, of course. And what happens is in Jakarta, as many other cities around Southeast Asia, we were surrounded by kampungs, right? The informal settlements, or like the traditional settlements of Jakarta or any other cities in Indonesia. So what happens is like with the small alleys, now motorcycles running like constantly 24 hours. They try to kind of like find ways how to still going through these areas without stuck in traffic. Because compared to the same implemented policies in Europe, while LEZ combined with CC, the congestion price, in Jakarta we still basically addressing the issue based on engineered, how do you call it, rekayasa rekayasa lalu lintas. So the governments they have also not complained, but also having difficulties to basically force people not to passing through Kota Tua, for example. So there is this problem. So what we see, because my organizations, we collaborate with also UWRF to conduct research of how these policies also impacting or influencing the surrounding environment, is that it's kind of like transporting the pollutions. So if the governments of Jakarta can claim that the pollution has been reduced in terms of numbers, but the surrounding communities is now having the pollutions. And for example, the kampung is where the paths where children can play. But with the motorcycles now going through these kampungs constantly, particularly on the rush hours, like in the afternoon or in the morning, there are signage everywhere, like be careful, like please drive carefully, there are many children, blah, blah, blah. Or people will find ways. For example, the Jakarta's government curbed the Old Town and force people to, for example, like to make a roundabout, right? And then for motorcycle driver, it's such a waste of time. So the locals found this as opportunities. They create like a small woods as a bridge. So people pay like 2,000 to go to the street. For me, that's the interesting part of cities, right? I love Jakarta. So like the informality is very strong, but I think that's the things that we need to address. So if we want to do the same thing in Bali, I think approach this issue by addressing Kota Tua or Ubud as a tourist site is a good one, because not much of resistance. People intentionally go to these places because of the attractions of tourism site. So more people want this area to be clean, of course. And not much resistance also because it is not an area like Denpasar or like in other parts of Jakarta that many like depend on like the mobility's demand is high. But if we plan to expand this outside like tourism site or Old Town area in Jakarta, then we have to thinking through how the characteristic of the use of cars or motorcycles as part of the cultures. For Indonesians, lower middle class, motorcycle is not only mean of transportation. If the government argue, oh, we can provide public transport which is well connected, but for the lower middle class, particularly those who work in informal sectors or those who, not like me, who only goes to commute to office, but they have to goes to different site every day. So motorcycle is considered as the best and cheaper options of vehicles. Also, today's we have a boom of online shopping, where motorcycles, not like in the US with Amazon, they have the cars or UPS, but in Jakarta we have Si Cepat, or what else? All these companies that provide motorcycles as vehicles to transport the logistic, the people, the things that people bought. So I think the pressure is intense. So if we don't address that needs, or I mean, like, it's always environment needs and economic interests always have to, like fight each other. But I think we can find ways. But I think listening to the people's, pay attention to what people actually need is also important, other than, of course, achieving the goals of free emissions in 2045, for example.
Thank you, Didi. So, applause for Didi.
Sorry kecepatan.
The motorcycle defender. So from Jakarta, now we come to Bali. We have several interesting initiatives in Bali. And this initiative is part of a wider collaboration between WRI, the World Resource Institute, that currently supporting and carrying out several important projects to reduce carbon emission in Bali. And this panel itself was proposed and supported by the WRI. And since it will be a very tight panel, I would like to introduce the beautiful people from WRI. Please stand up. We have Ita, Sopwan, we have Ita, we have Nei, and we have Termana, their local boy. So at the end of the panel, please approach them, discuss with them your input and your suggestion for what might be working in Bali in the context of reducing the carbon emission. Now we go to Indy, another defender of motorcycle. Please explain to us how your solution might work in reducing emission in Bali.
Thank you, Pak Jun. Good morning, dear speakers, dear distinguished guests. So, from point of view of transportation, Bali actually, me myself, wish that we could have public transport. Public transport will be a solution to reduce traffic in many theories, but in Bali, we cannot avoid the motorcycles. First, we don't have dedicated lane for public transport. Hopefully one day we would have. But other than that, motorcycles I see in Bali is part of the holiday, where people from France, from Europe or from Australia, they don't have the mopeds. So there is fun in it to go around, to roll around wherever you want to go without to be on time on the public transport whatsoever. So, do you all know that how many motorbikes are in Bali? There are 4,600,000 units motorbikes, whereas the people who live in Bali only 4 million. So there are a lot more motorcycles around than the people who live here. Why? Yes, because there is a business opportunity to rent the bike to the tourists, to the people who ever need it. So that becomes the best contribution for the traffic jam on the road. I wish also that we would have Kota Tua one day in Bali, perhaps Ubud.
Hopefully.
Maybe Mr. Cok could realize it. That will be very beautiful. With the two-wheelers, what we have here, what I see, the pollution and the emission are summed up when there is traffic, where the motorbikes, the vehicles are stuck and stay there and keep burning all the gasoline. So I'm very grateful that Indonesia have the regulation for converting all those gasoline vehicles, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, six-wheelers, into electric. They have all the regulation, they can be, all the papers can be taken care of, and me would love to have Bali as before I left Bali for quite a while. I used to study and work in Germany for 10 years. Back then, Bali was cool, nice, less traffic. And then now, how I see it, wherever you go, even though short distance you have to wait and stay in the traffic, the heat is different. Now it feels more hot. I don't know if you guys feel it, but I do really feel at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I used to cycle around Bali, no problem, but now it feels burned on the skin, right? So this conversion, I do really do it with compassion. I like the idea. I love that the regulation, the government supports this regulation by changing the vehicles now on the road into electric. For me, is the best way going to electric. Indonesia is going to electric in any way. There is no going around not to go electric. Because why? Yes, we have the most nickels in the world and the batteries. Maybe in a dream, Indonesia could provide battery for the world in a dream. I hope it will come. So this electric vehicle is coming, we like it or not. So the best way, what I see, to reduce the heat, to reduce the emission, is to exchange the gasoline-powered motorbike or cars into electric. And nowadays, government supported it with the subsidy. I'm not sure whether you guys have heard around, I think have been mentioned, with 3 million. So there are subsidies for converting motorbike. If you're using swappable batteries, so you don't have to buy the batteries. There are battery providers, or we're looking for battery providers who wants to go to this long-term business to provide the batteries. People can use or rent the battery for a certain amount of time. So the costs for the conversion itself will be very affordable, which is 3 million is nowadays in the market even cheaper than an electric bike. So this new update regulation just came out around a month ago. We hope we could do massive in the next year, 2024. Until the rest of this year, we could prepare it properly so it can be absorbed as many as to all the societies. For personal, for people who live in Bali, and perhaps Bali can be as an example for other provinces. I think that's...
You forget one thing. What's the advantage of introducing conversion kit, then introducing the whole set of a new electric motorbike?
Right. So the conversion, the main idea of the conversion is, of course, to reduce first emission, secondly heat. Heat, why heat? Because now we have traffic on the road, right? Like I said, when the traffic comes into a stopping point where all the gasoline vehicles burning fuels, they produce heat, they produce emission. If those vehicles are electric, converted, then the heat will be reduced, emission will be zero if it's really all electric, and secondly, we prevent of the extra new vehicles coming into the traffic, which is already a traffic jam. With new vehicles, I couldn't imagine how it could be more jammed.
Thank you. So by using conversion kit, you do not add up the number of the motorbike in the road. While buying new electric motorbike will add up and make the traffic jam problem worse than it was. It's not a promotion, but I will get 10% from every conversion kit he sell.
That's right. Okay.
So this is a good idea, and now I know most of you been in Ubud for many years. Some of you are newcomers to Ubud, but I think all of you agree that the traffic jam here is sucks big time. So now Cok Putra will enlighten us on what the Ubud community has on their mind for improving Ubud in the next few years. Silakan, Koda.
Thank you, Legion. Good afternoon, everyone. I haven't been speaking in English in a forum for years, so bear with me, because I'll try my best. Okay, so
He is being humble. He was educated in the Royal Melbourne University.
but it was like 15 years ago. Okay, talking about Ubud, our main agenda is actually bringing the romanticism of the old Ubud. Is anyone here live around Ubud or near Ubud or in Ubud more than 10 years? Okay, more than 20 years maybe?
Oh, you are basically
okay.
Ubudians. Respect to the Ubudians.
Okay, that's great. So the information that I got from my dad, from my grandmother before, Ubud has been evolving, It's been evolving since 100 years ago. The first tourism was like in 1930, and now we are heading to 2030, so it's almost 100 years. So we believe that there has been some shifting in mainly in our culture, our habit. In this case, we are talking about the way we commute, the way we move from one place to other places. Our agenda is how can we bring back this romanticism, Ubud as a village? When we're talking about the sustainability, actually we can take village as the example. Because when we go to village, everyone walks, and all the public services is by walking distance. And on the community itself, they know their neighbors very well, they know the community very well. So in terms of the inclusion of the community is very good, it's very great. And when we compare with the city, it's a different story. I live in Melbourne for like 6 years also. For the past, for the 6 years time I live in Melbourne, I never know who my neighbor was. So we never met. So we just like, I just to the garage and bring out the car, drive by, and same thing happens with my neighbors. So we never bump each other. That's the city. But here in Ubud, when we look back Ubud as a village, it doesn't happen in Ubud. It's a very romantic. I hope you agree with that word, romantic, because everything is close and you can appreciate things better. But now, Brother Yindy already talked about the heat, about the temperature on the road. How could you enjoy Ubud if your body doesn't feel good? So it's so contradictory when we know that Ubud as a cultural tourism. When we're talking about culture, culture is about the value of life. How can you appreciate life when you cannot feel things around you well enough? So that's the reason why we try to come back, try to bring back the romanticism, try to finding the core value of Ubud itself, which is as a village, when people can walk, less cars, less motorbikes, and then people bump each other on the road. We have better resiliency in our community, and we know each other better. I hope you agree with that, and I hope you will help me. especially for you who live here for more than 10 years, more than 20 years, please give us any opinion, give us your input so we can design Ubud better for everyone, and of course better for our children. Because when we are talking about 2045, it's like 23 more years. Now my daughter is 4 years old. So 2045 is going to be her 26th years old. So basically what we are doing now is literally for our children, for my children. So it's why it becomes very important for me to prepare something for our children, for Ubud. I think, yeah. I hope you get what I'm saying, because yeah, I'm sorry if you can't get any point of my speech.
Cok,
Yeah.
earlier you said about transforming Ubud into a walkable
True.
city. What kind of concrete plan that the Bina Wisata Foundation has right now?
The things that we are advocating right now is, I think it's the easiest way to see it is anyone ever had a great experience working in Ubud in terms of facility? No one raised hand, so that's the reason. Because we don't have any great facilities here, or maybe not great, or even decent facilities in Ubud. The width of the pedestrian walkway only 1 meters. If we look at the other country, the other city, or the other places, how can you push your
Stroller.
the stroller? What happens with people with special needs, with wheelchair, something like that? So it's not friendly. So the things that we want to push is how to make Ubud is humanizing everyone. So everyone has the same right. Everyone has the same right to use the road. Everyone has the same right to use the space, because the space is, we live under the same sky. We live, So we need to share. So we cannot let people use the land. Use the road just for them who has car, or use the roadside for them who has motorbike. We just bring back the function. There is the pedestrian ways for people to walk, and road is for the cars. And we are looking at the pyramid of the transportation. Also on the top is this, because this is the first thing that God has given us to move from one point to other point. So appreciate your leg. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us together pray that he will be able to push through with the plan, because Bina Wisata is a community-based institution. It's not a governmental agencies. So in Ubud, there is a lot of governmental agency with specific authorities involved, from regency level to provincial level. So it's really difficult, to make change.
True. If you look back and more 5 years before, maybe, or maybe 10 years before, the collaboration between the community, the government, and also we have the royal family and all the elements is quite different, different, because the way we communicate also different. Maybe today we have social media, we have WhatsApp, we have Telegram and all that, so it's easier to connect to each other. So in terms of the community, I think today's community is more solid. That's the reason I think it's more achievable today, especially when the government also have the same agenda, and we are working closely with institutions like the police institution and the government institution. Maybe one things that you might see on the Ubud Central now, that you cannot park on the roadside as for today, starting from last May. That's one of our first agenda to bring back the function of the infrastructure.
Thank you, Cok. So we are moving now from traffic to waste, to trash. So in the last 2 weeks, 3 huge, massive open-air dumpsters in Denpasar, Tabanan, catching fires, and also in Gianyars, and release uncounted, I don't know the numbers, such a huge amount of polluting gas into the atmosphere. So this is provide us with the most direct relation between waste and emission. I will ask Gungtik to explain what's happened and whether Bali has a real solution in dealing with waste and trash. Silakan Gungtik.
Yeah, tes. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gungtik. I'm from PPLH Bali. PPLH Bali is one NGO in Bali. We are concerned in environmental education. Our office in Denpasar, and I live in Gianyar. So, starting my experience in the waste management, I start in 2019 with concern in the village level, for the community development. I learned a lot before I come to the landfill. So I learned a lot in the village first. One thing that I saw, the big changes of the habitual in Bali is about how to throw our waste. My grandma, my grandpa sent the information to me, give a story that a long time ago, there is no plastics. We use of the organics, and they only throw them away to the nature, and that's fine because there will be composting. But nowadays, there's a lot of among the non-organics, such as plastics, for one of the examples. But still, the habit is it's never changed. They still throw the mixed waste, including the organics and the organic waste together, that become the mixing waste to the nature. Back then, I have a lot of discussion with the senior, with the experts. What should we do about this to change this habits? First, that I saw is a lack of the knowledge, lack of the awareness of how to separate the waste. They only know how to do a collect, and then after that they just dump to the landfill, or they just dump to the rivers, or they just dump to our rice field or nature. And the second is about lack of the structure in the government. I work with the village, and so there is no specific structure that concerns about the waste management. So for the waste management, they work in a wine groups. That means that there is no one specific structure to do it. And the third is a lack of the financial. For your information, Balinese governments only provide 0.0001% of the budget for the waste management. Oh, yes. And the other things I realized after I doing the community development, I assist more than 10 villages in Bali, and that's exhausted and leave a bit confusing because there is two sides. First, I need to give an education, environmental education for the community, and the other side, I should to help the government to make a plan, including the regulations. Bali is one of the governments who issues the regulation of the waste management that push the source to push the waste management at the source in the whole Indonesia. Actually, for the regulation, Bali is quite good rather than the other city or place in Indonesia. But again, the implementation is not that really well enough yet. back to what happened in the landfills. Again, maybe you know, now you heard about the El Nino, yes, the hot weather in Bali. And the second, because of the mixing waste, just go the way to our landfill, that become it's like there's a lot of organic waste in Bali, and because they are decomposed in our landfill, that will, sorry, what's called, that will be emitted gases. And because that the hot conditions and weather in Bali, that makes our landfill is burning. But the second thing that you should to know, this is, I don't know, this is shared by the government. Again, this still lack of awareness of our waste worker. They just throw out their cigarette to the landfill. Yes. So that's why I think that the other things why this become why our landfill catching the fire. But how we can do right now? Actually, PPLH Bali currently became a government consultant, and also we are become their team to monitoring their regulations. So we start now how to share to the community and also for the village. They're starting to making the MRF in the village. So in Gianyar itself consists around 40 MRFs, and they're actively doing the waste management properly. So they are doing the separations at the source, and the second they are making the compost in the household level and also in the MRF. But again, for the MRF in Gianyar, that's not enough to cover all the waste in Bali. Bali produces around 1 million tons annually for the waste generation, and only 60% are managed. That's including dumped to the landfill. So only 16% are managed well in the field or in the source. So Yindy said in 2024, plan to be a massive electric vehicle. So last year, our organization collaborated with the UWRF. We are doing the research about the e-waste management. So we just want to start how to prevent this waste in the future, in the 2024. So we are creating the SOPs and also the policy paper. If you want to get this document, I can share it, or WRI can share to you this document. So in our research that we are start in Ubud, in Pelihatan, being the case, and also in Kerobokan. In these two regency, Gianyar and Badung, both of these regency, there is no facility for e-waste or the hazardous waste yet. And then second, after we are doing this research, we are trying to make an SOPs to do how to do make a e-waste management properly. But again, if the community is still mixing their waste, there is impossible to create the e-waste management. So in our suggestions in the research is first we should to tackle with the change the awareness, give an education, environmental education for the people, and also for the government, assist them how to make a massive separation at the source. And the second thing, Bali doesn't design for the e-waste management, because the ends of the e-waste management is the incinerations, and the Bali is against for the incineration. If you see, there is no incinerators in Bali at the landfill, but because of the massive technology and a lot of consultants out there, they are brings their machine to Bali and put the incinerator. Actually, in our regulation, Bali Governor Regulation number 47, 2019 about the waste management at the source, they are against to do incinerate all the waste, but they can start by the separations at the source and that managed by the type. But again, how we can manage the e-waste then? In Bali, there are some, I forgot what it called, but the transporter for the electric waste and the hazardous waste, they are collaborate with the public factory, it was factory in Java. So in Bali only transport the waste. But again, if we are doing that, so means the governments need to put some budget for this moments. But again, we are still trying to find a way how this can make it happen. So Bali can manage their e-waste properly and also waste management in general. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gungtik. So amidst all the flaws, amid all the weakness, I just want to make you a bit more optimistic about Bali. There's one forces that we must reckon with, which is the Gen Z. So among the younger generation of Bali, there is a strong support for better renewable energy. There is a stronger support for electric vehicle. So Yindy, you will be a very rich guy in
Very rich.
there is a strong support for the return to the cultural tourism, and there is a strong support not only in thought, mind, or words, but also in action among our younger generation toward the waste problem. A lot
Can I add one more? Oh yeah, people at Bali also works with the students, with the school. Currently, we have a 20 school in Bali. We are educate for the waste management. I think that we can start for the youth also. It's not the only approach with the community, governments, but also the youth.
Yeah, actually, the youth quite involved.
Yes.
If you look at all the beach cleaning campaigns in Bali, which drew around 2,000 to 5,000 people in each event, it's mostly younger people. So there is a hope. And for those who already live in Bali for 10 years, for 20 years, I would like to extend my gratitude. Because Bali will not be able to be such a progressive island in environmental issues without your presence. I mean, a lot of eco initiative was started by the expatriate community and later on taken over by the locals, but still getting a huge support from the expatriate community. So yes, your presence here in Bali has benefited the island. So anytime somebody try to shame you that tourism has brought only negative things to Bali, just remember, a lot of Balinese acknowledge their debt to you. So now, after all these cases from electric vehicles, from Jakarta, from Ubud, and from waste management, now we are trying to get a bigger pictures, a way to move forward. So, please, Satya, on the field of renewable energy, which way that, which approach, which method that Bali has to embrace?
Thank you, Mr. Juni, for the opportunity. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Satya. I'm from Center for Community-Based Renewable Energy of Udayana University. And what we do at the center, we do research and development of renewable energy technology. We also do some implementation project through the assistance of many international organizations, the central governments and the local governments. And we also provide capacity building for communities, stakeholders in Bali, including governments, industries, NGOs, to set up a renewable energy project around Bali. And earlier we have heard examples of how we can decarbonize our life here in Bali. Maybe I'll just give you an overview of from our research and from also the government publication that 44% of the emission in Bali is actually from energy sector, and then about 25% from transport sector, and about 21% from the building sector. So these three sectors, energy, transport, and buildings, is actually the worst offenders of emission here in Bali. So what we do, I think the government of Bali, earlier, one of the speakers mentioned that the government actually take an active and leading role to produce regulations to accelerate the developments of renewable energy and also electric vehicle and also green building. We work with different organizations for renewable energy developments. We work with Japanese agency JICA, with DANIDA, the Danish organization. We work with the USAID, with different international, really earlier Mr. Juni mentioned that the role of international community to help us to know our problem better has been very significant, and we hope that we can continue to do so. As also the government, Mr. Jokowi mentioned during the COP26 that with the aid of international aid, we can actually achieve better in terms of decarbonizing Indonesia to support this mitigation of GHGs. And what we do here in our center, we help communities. For example, we develop a solar PV for a farmer in a small village in Klungkung district. We develop about 25 kilowatts PV system to help bring water, groundwater, to irrigate their farm, because during dry season, normally in Bali, generally farmers can do 3 harvest time in a year, but in this village, they can only do it once in 2 years. So because of lack of water. So we then talk with the embassy of Japan in Jakarta, and we also work with different companies, and then we can set up that. And we also work with different organizations to build a micro hydro project. I don't know if you've been to Jatiluwih World Heritage Sites, any of you? Okay, so we have a project there. We built small micro hydro to produce not much energy, but it served like a showcase for community, for people. We used that actually to power the lighting for the jogging track, so people can extend their spending time in the area, Jatiluwih area, like closer to the evening, because otherwise it'll be very dark. So currently we work to achieve, or at least we try to see if Nusa Penida can be powered 100% by renewable energy. So we work with an organization called IESR from Jakarta. We work together with stakeholders, central governments, the provincial governments, and also the district government in Klungkung, and including the sub-district in Nusa Penida, how we can move from fossil-based, because about 80% of the power generation in the island is not big. We're talking about like 13 megawatt power capacity. So we would like to see how a small island in Bali can be powered using renewable energy. And then later we move on to see how Bali can achieve net zero emission by 2045. So this is a test case for us. One is good for Bali, and I think, as you're probably aware, that Indonesia is the largest archipelagic country with about 6,000 islands inhabited. So if what we do here in Bali, or Nusa Penida in this case, perhaps can be used as a reference or best practice of how we move from fossil-based economy or life into a more sustainable life in the future. So we look at different sources that are available locally because we do not want to import. For example, we look at biomass, what we can grow in Nusa Penida. We also look at the wind energy. We know that the government actually has been implemented wind energy farm, a small one in 2007 during the UNFCCC 2007. But because the project was like very quickly, so the government itself has had no time to actually look at what the best wind technology that can be deployed within that limited wind resources. So our centers look at different technology, which technology will fit in that situation, because as you know, temperature here in Indonesia is like stable at 29, 30 degrees. So which makes the air doesn't move a lot. That means there is no much wind. Compared to when I was in England, I was studying in a place called Newcastle upon Tyne in the north near the Scottish border. So we have 4 seasons there, which means, you are familiar with the different temperature, different season, which make the wind swirl and. So, but here in Bali is very limited, but Nusa Penida area, particularly the one that exposed to the southern part of the island, is exposed to the oceans. And we see that a small size turbine is actually better. Because in the past, the government will build it's not huge, but today it's about 80 kilowatts wind turbine. It's not very small, not very big. I mean, we are talking about megawatt wind turbine now. But then from our simulation, from the data that we have from NASA, NREL, and these organizations, then we actually can benefit better if we use a smaller wind turbine. And then also in operating the system, maintaining it, it's much better because it's more affordable. It's easier for us to train people in the village to sort of maintain a 1 kilowatt turbine compared to 100 meters tall wind turbine, which will need special skill, equipment, and everything. So these kind of things we look at our center, and then from then we draw a policy. So the local government can then make a better decision. We work very closely with the Council of Energy of the provincial government in Bali, and also district government around Bali. So hopefully this will help. I know we had heard lots of good and bad stories about what happened in Bali, but from that perspective, as an academic, we see in our center that the government is there. As one of the speakers mentioned earlier, Bali is actually one of the leading provincial concerned about this clean energy, how we can achieve it by producing different regulation to support. Now we realize that the financing of renewable energy, electric vehicles, green buildings requires a lot of financing of that. So I think we can work together, because I personally believe as well, because we've been living in far north of the globe and then come back here near the equator. So I mean, we have all heard that whatever happened in the North Pole will affect, us here in Bali. So we affect each other. So in that sense, I think collaboration is really the way forward to tackle this together, because renewable resources in Bali are actually abundant, ladies and gentlemen, because it's there. We have biomass, we have solar, we have in Nusa Penida, if I can go back there, we also look at how we use pump hydro storage. So we basically pump the seawater during daytime using solar PV, and then during night we send the water back onto the sea, turning the turbine. So we in engineering-wise, technical design, we work on that, but we also obviously the financing of this large-scale project is beyond our center. So I hope in the future we can collaborate to see what we can do to help to help us, the Balinese, and to help you, because you have, I've seen here some of you actually been living here in Bali, so maybe we can work together in that. So yeah, thank you, Pak Joni. Thank you.
Thank you, Bli Satya. So I don't want to. I will not start the Q&A. We don't have sufficient time for question and answers. But I would like three of the audience to provide input and suggestion for what Bali can do better in the term of that gentleman over there.
Thank you. It's nice to be called a gentleman once in a while.
Oh, is that you, Rio? Sorry. I have cataract on
Yeah,
my
you
left
got it
eye.
wrong.
Sorry.
Okay.
If I known it was you, I wouldn't give it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I have just a little background. I've been living in Bali for almost 50 years. I came into Bali for the first time with my dad in 1963. I could say that I've seen a lot of change in Bali. Tremendous change, shocking change. And about the environment, actually, Jun, you were a little bit wrong. It was not the expats who first started doing something in Bali. It was a group of us, Indonesians, who started Wisnu Foundation in the 1990s. We started doing garbage sorting stuff. But I'm not here to kind of tell you a story. My big question is, I mean, brilliant solutions, et cetera, et cetera. There have been brilliant solutions around for years now in the whole globe. What is always missing is political will. And when we're talking about political will, we're not talking about Pak Camat or Pak Lurah, no. We're talking about Babe di atas, you know? And that, when that doesn't work, these things, you get a great little, you know, it's a 5-minute fireworks show, and then boom, nothing else. An example, this is real. I mean, I'm not being bitter. I am a bit bitter, actually. But, but you know, I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. You know, and probably the most effective thing, and this is actually an expat thing, is Sam Benchambig or whatever, I can never pronounce his name, Sungai Watch. Okay? He's getting attention because he's bringing it overseas. He's got his Sungai Watch, they're collecting, and they get great videos, etc. I'm not sure of the details of whether it's really long-term effective or not, but he's getting attention. And that's what you all need, is you need, because, you know, honestly, I'm sorry about, you know, my country, but we actually work better when foreigners look at us from the outside. You know, when somebody says, you know, something, oh, God, that's a mess, you know, and then, well, tiba-tiba malu, you know. So when, you know, when we have a state head from somewhere else comes, they quickly put up like banners that cover all the I want to say the word shit, but I shouldn't, but you know, in Suwong, you know, all the stuff, and then they try and cover up all in the stuff in the mangroves. So it just points to that nobody is really up there, is really pushing. What are you going to do about that? What is Gen Z? We all hope for Gen Z. What is Gen Z going to do to push? To push, because that's how you get it done. You're not going to get it done. Political will, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about political will. So that's, it's kind of an open-ended question. Please.
I think it's a question for all of us to answer, especially since the public election nearing toward the end. Yeah, next. No question, but input or suggestion, yeah. The lady, I'm sorry about my eyesight, but silakan, Mbak. No, you with the white shirt.
Thank you. Is this working? Thank you for all of your work. I live in Ahmed, and on
Can
the
you increase your
oh
voice?
yeah, on the east coast in Karangasan, and you know, like I come down here and it's green and it's lush and it's gorgeous, but up there. It looks so dry and so hot. It looks like it's just about to burst into flames, you know. And in fact, that is what's been happening up on the sides of Mount Agung. There have been fires. The people are actually concerned that it's lava. It's not. It's just spontaneous fires. And in Australia, we know all about that. And it's, you know, bushfires can cause such a, you know, a catastrophe. And so my question is, I am yet to see people with gutters gutters on their houses. In Australia, we have gutters on our houses, and we know we have to save water. It's all about water. It's all about not sinking any more wells, because we know what's happened in Jakarta. It's about education on saving water. Where I live, the water comes down the mountain. It takes all the topsoil. It's gone. People are wondering why they can't farm the land. The topsoil turns the water brown every year because no one is saving the water. And so my thing is about, is there an organisation or something which is educating people about how do you save the abundant water that comes in the rainy season for times like now where everything's just going to blow up, So thank you. That's my concern. Right.
Thank you. My apology. I know I promised for 3 speakers, but the committee has just reminded me that we 2 minutes past our allocated time. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending the panel. Give the big applause for these good people.